Welcome, everybody. Good evening. You know, June 15th, tooth, what? 5th. Oh, I wanted to jump ahead a week, sorry. We all have to hold the microphone and we've got to hold it close. What the opportunity tonight is to talk to the issue of a commitment to foster sustainable communities, which is a evolutionary initiative. And it's actually a critical conversation for future generations. So we want to be as positive as we can, but we really got some serious stuff to deal with. And to make it really work, I'm going to give Jackie this microphone so she can introduce herself and pass the microphone on so we know who's in the room, because we're being filmed by Hub. So
Hi.
you just say your name and where you're from and why you're here.
Oh. My name's Jackie Watson. I'm from Amesbury, Massachusetts. I'm here because Art dragged me here. No. I mean, who? I mean, who can deny Art and his passion? I mean, he found me at a Earth Day gathering, and I had written a story and created a film, a stop-motion animation film about the environment that teach about a story about a little girl who becomes friends with a duck, and they can't be friends because she's a human, and humans pollute. So he saw that and said, I think that you need to help spread the word to other little kids. And so it started there.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Belanger. I'm from West Newbury, and I'm here because I really care about the environment, and yeah.
I'm Pat Skibby. I'm from West Newbury. And my reasons for being here are a combination of what they just said. A, Art dragged me here. And B, my whole life I've been very passionate about the environment.
Hi, I'm Jean Pucci, and I'm from West Newbury. And I filled out a survey after attending an ACES meeting on four or five presentations of environmentalists, which was great. And so Art read it and said, come on board, you know. So I have a background in teaching, and I thought maybe I could do something with the schools and the students.
I'm Sarah Landry, and I am the director of the Newburyport Council on Aging. And I've been working with Art and Ben and ACES to create an initiative here, to start an initiative for zero waste. And we've really been moving full speed ahead, and I'm very passionate about the environment and reducing our footprint here. And so I'm excited to spread some of our experiences.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jeanette Isabella. I'm here because I'm just interested in the environment. We've made a mess, and we've got to clean it up, so I'm happy to be part of that effort.
Hi, I'm Sean Reardon. I'm the mayor of Newburyport. This is keeping me from a budget meeting, so that's why I'm here. No, that's not true. Art dragged me here. No, yeah, right. No, you know, happy to be here. Again, Art's been a good partner since I took office back in January 2022, and we've been able to work on a lot of things early on, and you know, this is kind of our next step in what we hope is a massive effort that I'll get to later in the presentation. But yeah, just happy to be here and happy to hear from everybody.
My name is Alexandria Varro. I'm from Newburyport, and I'm here because I want to learn more about the environment and how to support it locally.
Hi, my name is Nikki Gerard. I'm from Newburyport, and I am an ambassador with the ACES program, so Arthur did not drag me here. He led me here. I've just been doing whatever those guys need me to do. My expertise is plastics engineering.
Hi, I'm Lon Hochmeister, and I'm here because it's 7 o'clock, and it's on the schedule. I'm ACES board member. I've been with ACES since the beginning, and I'm on the, I guess I'm sponsor for the Natural Resources Initiative at ACES.
And from Newbury.
Oh, I'm from Newbury.
Hi, I am Lorenzo Minoli. I moved here 3 years ago, and I'm very happy to be here. And I am developing a documentary with ACES and the Senior Center about how wise senior can be really instrumental in a sustainable future. And we're working on that.
Hi everyone, Kristen Grubbs. Let's see, I'm a resident of Byfield since 1999. I've had a number of different jobs with environmental organizations, which is when I've connected previously a little bit with Lon and with Art. I'm currently planning director for the town of Newbury, so I'm interested in this discussion because pretty much the whole goal of good planning is to help communities be sustainable and bring public benefits in a lot of different ways for that community planning. It's not just environmental, but having the lens of sustainability in everything a town does is really important. I think it's really important we think about these issues in a regional way.
Good evening. My name is Ben Iacono. I'm also an ACES board member and treasurer. I've been a member since about 1.5 years, and fully appreciate all of the things that ACES organization is doing. And I'm deeply involved in many, many projects.
And he's from Newburyport. He's on a variety of other things. You're next.
I'm Michael Watkins. I was recently added to the board. I won't say that Art dragged me here. I'll say Lon dragged me here. I met Lon at a meeting in December and then became associated with ACES after that. I have a background in geology and IT, and if I can say so, I'm going to bring ACES technology forward. And I'm very passionate about the environment, so I'm glad to help out here.
So the key is you're going to tell everybody where you commute from. Right?
Oh yeah, I commute from Acton, Massachusetts. So maybe I came the furthest to this meeting.
And Michael's been doing a great job elevating what we're doing. So I want to see what and Brittany, you're just in time to introduce yourself because we've gone around, but you just say who you are, where you're from, etc.
Yeah. No. I'm Brittany Steingesser. I'm from Amesbury. I'm on the energy committee there, as well as I lead the Amesbury Green team there as well. Sorry, I'm late.
Thank you for being here. There's going to be somebody else later that hopefully will all fall in place. So as I said, this is a critical issue for the future. And we're going to have some context about that. And if we look back to, all right, so Judy, you just walked past the microphone, and I'm going to bring it to you because you have to share with everybody who you are, where you're from, and why you're connected with us.
So my name is Judy Timon, and I've been a resident of Newburyport for probably about 40 years, and I've been involved with affordable housing and with bike pedestrian access in the city.
She's a major contributor. So we'd like to look at something that the ACES leadership team put together as a statement that provides context for what we're going to talk about tonight. So Mike, if we could have that, Michael. I'm going to let you read this. Obviously, there's some strong words in that statement. And many of the people who are in the leadership team are senior citizens who are very focused on future generations, because that's what this is about. And we want to make sure we've got a green, resilient, and sustainable communities and the communities in this area. And that takes a lot of effort. And so this is about kicking off an effort of leadership to be able to realize that belief And I'm very fortunate we've got some young people here who are the future and going to be interns for ACES, because young interns have made great contributions to date. Okay. We're going to now go back to in time. I don't know where you were on April 22nd, Whoop. This happened. This is the technical glitch, because what this PowerPoint, it goes to YouTube, so it goes out of this space, and we've encountered this challenge. But I was going to say that I was at LaGuardia Airport on this day.
Yet the gravity of the message of Earth Day still came through. Act or die. Good evening. A unique day in American history is ending. A day set aside for a nationwide outpouring of mankind seeking its own survival. Earth Day. A good part of the effort to make this Earth Day a success was concentrated, of course, in the major population and pollution centers. We have a report on several of the big cities, beginning with Robert Shackney in Boston.
It had been a small and it seemed a thoroughly peaceful, non-disruptive demonstration. Students finishing Earth Day with what they called a die-in at Boston's Logan Airport. Coffins to symbolize the problems of airport and airplane pollution. It wasn't clear why the state police ordered the demonstrators out, but they were leaving when, for no visible reason, trouble. The police charging the crowd, seizing the coffins, pushing those who moved too slowly, and arresting 13. There had been talk in advance of crowds of thousands, of attempts to disrupt the airport, but that didn't happen. This crowd, just a few hundred, had seemed orderly and non-violent. Logan Airport. Police arrests disorder. Robert Shackney, CBS News, Boston.
For 2 hours, fashionable Fifth Avenue was off-limit to automobiles and became a crowded pedestrian mall. Autos were banned on busy 14th Street, too, and thousands of persons jammed into Union Square to attend an Earth Day rally. The square hadn't looked this clean in years, with volunteer help doing the sprucing up. It was a fun day for many school-age youngsters participating in their very first demonstration. There were dozens of exhibits, including this block-long air bubble, to prove how quiet it can be in a busy city. The 2 streets that were blocked off provided islands of quiet. The quality of air improved, but you didn't have to go far to find Manhattan as it really is. Morton Bean, CBS News, New York.
Nationally, which isn't much to sing about, but that they did at a mass rally in the Loop to mark Earth Day. Over 4,000 persons came to listen to the singing and the speeches, much less than what was expected. Among the recommendations to improve the environment, the establishment of pollution courts to quickly try offenders, and the elimination of the internal combustion engine, a suggestion no doubt aimed at purifying the city's often choking atmosphere. CBS News, Chicago.
Thousands of students demonstrated at colleges and universities throughout the West. At Caltech, while others did the
administration is being utterly hypocritical in its attempts to deal with environmental pollution, obviously. $1 billion a year is what Walter Hickel is talking about spending cleaning up water pollution. Now, 80 times that is what we're spending to defoliate Southeast Asia and to incinerate Southeast Asians. This has got to come to a halt.
We've got a little more perspective. One, would you want to be up here? You want to speak from there? Okay.
Thank you. I'll wait till he gets the slide up. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at this slide, which is the atmospheric concentration of CO2 or CO2 equivalents in our atmosphere. And when Walter was speaking, we were down there around 330. 25 years, or what is it, 50 years later, we're up at about 428. So that's as of 2025. So that's where we are now. So everything that we were dreading has been occurring. We're drowning in our own waste, and some of that ends up in a landfill, and some of it ends up in the atmosphere, and a lot of it ends up into our oceans. So things are changing. And this is just showing some equivalents. This is the three dominant greenhouse gases. So you got CO2, methane equivalents, and nitrogen equivalents. So this is what's causing it. This is the global numbers, and same kind of curve. This is interesting. It's a greenhouse gas emission estimates for the U.S. As of 2023, and encouraging. Maybe there's a downward trend. A lot of this is estimate models and so on, but maybe we're doing some good since 2000. Next. So we were showing our data now up to about 2000 or about 2023, 2024. This is going from 2025 forward. The red line is if we pretty much continue the way we are. The blue line is if we take some action, get our numbers down reasonable by 2040, and get them down to around over on the right about 0.5, I think, for temperature change by 2100. So if we get our numbers really good, we can begin making that curve go down. And I don't know about reversing it, but that's what we're looking at now. So going to the next slide. So what are these impacts? So climate change impacts from the CO2 and the CO2 equivalents in the atmosphere are causing climate change impacts. That's rising temperatures and heat waves. So more frequent and intense heat waves, greater energy demands for cooling, and potential for increased wildfires. 2 years of drought, and we're going to start looking like California. Changing precipitation patterns with more intense rainstorms, more water falling when it does fall, and when we swing into a drought phase, the longer droughts. Storm surge and coastal flooding, coastal erosion, that's going to lead to coastal erosion, and not just on the coastline, but in our rivers. Flooding in low-lying regions, damage to coastal infrastructure, ecosystems, and communities, and rising ocean temperatures and acidification. So as that CO2 goes into your ocean, it turns into carbonic acid, so it's like a Diet Coke. And any creature that's trying to make a calcium-based shell or skeleton has got some issues because acid doesn't support that. Ecosystem and biodiversity losses. So climate caused habitat degradation, damaged and fragmented habitats, invasive species. As the warm temperatures start moving north, the species that are not native to our area start moving north too. Ecosystem damage from storms, so rapid displacement of wildlife from fires, from windstorms, hurricanes. You're not going to convince anybody in North Carolina they were going to get hit by a hurricane. Next one. Infrastructure and as-built environment. So high demands on the electrical grid, so we're going to have to modernize the electrical grid. Coastal and low-lying infrastructure, so anything along the shorelines, like on the right there, except the river's been cut off of it. The river was where the words are. and it overflows its banks. This is in North Carolina, and takes out all the infrastructure along the sides. And then upriver storm surge, so people in Amesbury and Haverhill that think they're safe, wait till the surge coming up the river meets the rain coming down the river, and you're going to get a bulge that's going to move up into further up the river. Heavy erosion, again, increased river flow causing bank erosion. So I think that was my last slide. So this is what we're facing and what we're working against. Who's up? Art.
Thank you. So we want to have your perspective based upon what you heard, what Lon shared, what Walter Cronkite shared. What's your comment? What key challenges and opportunities must be addressed between now and 2050? 2050 is a year of many goals and standards to ensure a sustainable planet. As Judy has a comment. Please. Yes, thank you. Teamwork wins.
So I think in order to address what we're looking at, we need to look at what the biggest producers of carbon monoxide are. Carbon dioxide, rather. It's automobiles and construction. Construction of buildings. So, which is one of the reasons that I am an advocate for bike pedestrian access, less dependence on automobiles, and I also advocate for a denser housing that is close to transportation centers, housing that does not require that you have large lawns that have to be bordered, 5 bathrooms that have to be serviced, housing that is affordable, is better for the environment. So those two things we have to take a serious look at, transportation and construction.
Thank you. One of the things we're doing tonight is we're actually only going to ask questions that need to be answered. So Judy just raised 2 questions. What's the impact relative to all other impacts of carbon dioxide, transportation related, and construction? Those are the 2 questions. The reason we're doing this is we're going to make this work, as you'll see what Jackie's developed in terms of a process. We're going to answer every question that has to be answered. The key thing is going to be understanding it's never too late to start. It's always too late to wait. So we are at the point where of starting something significant. So we want to have any questions that you would like to have addressing key opportunities. Comment?
I don't know if I'm going to say what you want me to say.
Well, if you would
But
address
I'm gonna
that,
say-
if you would address that
Okay.
question.
So I think one of our challenges is, and a pet peeve of mine, is the leaf blowing machines. I mean, with the mayor's help, get out of the city. They're out of a lot of cities, but there's noise pollution, there's gasoline pollution, and those people don't realize, or they don't think it's going to happen to them, but they're giving themselves disease while they have all that going on. And it's impacting all of us. So,
Thank you, so noted. What will be the impact of gas blowers and other home maintenance equipment on the overall problem? Is that fair? And the second question would be, what can we do to change it? Okay. So Jackie is she's capturing these questions because The intention is, as we go forward, to answer all the questions. But the first part of this relates to making sure we've got the questions. So before any ideas are put forward, before we start to, what about doing this? We're going to have the answers to the questions. Okay.
I think one big challenge ahead of us is really making sure that everybody believes that we have to take action. A lot of people that we talk to and come to, contact with, they feel inundated with how big the problem is and feel helpless. But our task is everybody can make a big difference if they participate. And if more people participate, the impact is going to be significant. So it's a big PR type of issue, awareness, advocacy, and those type of things are needed more.
Thank you, Ben. True. Next slide. So since December, we've had a variety of conversations. They're noted here. There's a variety of people who aren't here today that have been in these conversations. And the good thing is, from all this work, there's some consistent perspectives that are shared. And the next slide is going to show you, from those conversations, what's happened. So we're looking at the UN pillars of sustainability. And the US and Massachusetts, as well as communities, have mandates. And we've got one of them. We got net zero 2050. Everybody has net zero 2050. We're also in Massachusetts. You're going to see another objective that we have to, a mandate that we have to reach. But if you can look at those things and you can see prime leadership from local municipal entities, recognizing communities of interest be engaged, a private-public collaborative entity. We can't expect the municipalities to do all this work. Everybody has to be involved. And it's really serious because we are now closer to 2050 than we were to 2000. We're now 25 years before 2050. That's dramatic when you think what, anyway. And many questions must be raised and answered. Our perspective is that every question deserves an answer. Funding is going to be required. We understand that. And we're going to have a test program. And the test program is going to be germane to a very specific challenge that we have. But before we're going to go into that, we're going to hear from the mayor and what he takes away. Excuse me. These, huh? No, so in terms of background, these are the three pillars. We've just really, in this community, have learned about the three pillars from a person traveling around the world talking about sustainability in November. And it was part of the presentation that Sean and Frank Arena and Mark Ritchie made at the high school environmental open house. And it's people, the environment, and money. Does that make sense? Sure, it makes sense, because the environmental challenges have to be fixed by people, and the people need money to fix it. So it's pretty integrated, and it addresses things such as transportation and housing. So it's really society. It's not just how green the marsh is or the trees are. It's way beyond that. And Jackie has, do you want to say anything about this? Because this is a framework that she has brought forward that we've worked with, and it makes a great deal of sense.
Right. So there's a lot of different things that need to be done, and we can't address it all at once. We know that. So we need a framework that's going to help us prioritize what needs to be done and iteratively collaborate to make an impact. And we'll start with one component that with the most immediate impact on everyone. So using this framework, it'll help. We'll use it for all the fostering sustainable community programs. Yeah, next slide. And so I didn't come up with this framework. This is something that, I didn't share with you that I do user experience design. So I lead design thinking and design and strategies, helping people solve problems through like technology and so forth. So this is a framework that allows you to iteratively improve on different programs. And so we've discussed that we will begin with this framework. It starts with discovery to get answers to questions and validate assumptions. So everyone has a chance to speak and bring things to the table, and we'll gather perspectives and knowledge from the community. And then moving into a defining stage where we define goals and outcomes and identify challenges, and we'll co-create solutions with a clear roadmap. And then throughout, we'll prioritize and track the success through measurable outcomes, creating some prototypes to help everyone know what's happening, what the ideas are before anything launches, and we'll continuously improve our community one initiative at a time. And the whole idea is that once we get good at this framework, we will it'll pick up speed, and you can move on to the next initiative and take it through the framework, and eventually you're making progress, maybe simultaneously programs at a time.
Thank you, Jackie. So I would say that we're fortunate in that in conversations with Sean Reardon over the course of the last few years, he understands and has stepped forward at different times for leadership around sustainability-related matters, such as the challenges we have in the Merrimack River. So right now, I'm going to have him share his perspective on what is now and then afterwards.
Great. Thanks, Art. Yeah, coming into this role back in January 2022, I think you come in with a lot of energy and ideas, and sometimes you think you can do everything all at once, and you realize once you're there that you can always roll out things that way. But it's so important too, right? So I do think I was lucky. I get to work with great people like Molly Attenborough, who you'll hear from in a second. But we have some really phenomenal people in the city with great expertise, and a lot of work had been done in certain areas around sustainability. But now, again, how we've tried to approach some things these past 3 years is really trying to leverage that expertise, but also, again, realizing we're all part of the same ecosystem here, and how do we try to do that? And one of those things Art just mentioned was with the Merrimack River and the CSO problems. That was kind of my first foray into some of these issues. Art said it, we're closer to 2050 than we are to year 2000 now. And it's just crazy to tell you. I'm almost been in this job for 4 years. I mean, that went like that, right? So again, good planning leads to good results, right? So back to the planning efforts around 2050. The mandates are important because they give you this lofty goal that you're trying to get to, and as a mayor and a chief executive, kind of looking like, how do we get there? You really have to break that down into manageable goals that you can reach along the way that help you get to that 250, right? And I think that's where we are at right now. I think we're hoping with this collaboration of talent and communities can come together and really work together to map out that plan bit by bit, meet those goals along the way, and get to that magic 2050 number. And what's great about this, and Art mentioned prior to that, it is daunting sometimes thinking that the public face of all this needs to do all this, but when you can leverage people in your community. We actually just did this year around mental health. When I took office, I was very concerned about the mental health here in the city, and I knew we had so much expertise here in the city that I wanted to leverage. So we formed the mental health task force, and we did an assessment, and we've worked through, and now we've just launched this Make It Okay campaign. So similar to that there are just opportunities for people who, we just have some amazing talent in the area, not just Newburyport, but in the area that can lead this effort. I know Molly's going to talk about a few things in a little bit, but the resiliency plan effort, that started in 2016 and ended in 2020, similar in that a lot of great talented people came together and put forth this plan that has a lot of action items on it that we're trying to chip away at, and I feel we can do the same around sustainability. I think you can go to the next slide probably. And just like moving forward, I talked about that ecosystem that we're all part of. It is great once you do finally get in a role like this that you can get to work with such great people in all these other communities. I went through a massive effort around the Whittier Vocational School, and I got to know my counterparts up and down the Merrimack River and the Merrimack Valley area very well. It's that collaborative approach, and the ACES guys joke with me all the time about collaboration is how difficult things get done, but it really is true. We all have to work together to get things done. We all have to be rowing in the same direction, and that's why I talked about this just a second ago, but that public-private approach I think will have the most impact, because we do get to leverage that talent, and it all doesn't fall on a certain group or a certain town or a certain it's not a certain mindset. It's all of us working together and then thinking how not only things that happen here in Newburyport impact things in Newbury or Salisbury or even further downriver. It's having that collective response to a really daunting issue as far as getting to zero waste in 2050. And I pretty much said all that. Oh, and this is also important. Our children and grandchildren deserve a plan with action with proactive collaborators. I have 3 kids here in Newburyport. My parents grew up here, my grandparents grew up here, my great-grandparents grew up here. So that setting up the next generation for success I just think is so important. We do a lot of short-term things here in Newburyport, but we also have to have that eye on the future. I think the rec center that we just passed here in Newburyport is a great example of that. The impact that's going to have on future generations of families here in Newburyport is immeasurable. So I think we have to have that same kind of eye and future focus around not only waste, but that's what we're talking about here tonight around sustainability. But there's a lot of things that we have to do to protect Newburyport and this region for future effects of climate change and whatnot. So yeah. I think that's it. Art was
Okay, so in terms of collaboration, we've got Kristen from Newbury to just share a little bit about some recent work that was collaborative. The Resiliency Committee of Newburyport and the town of Newbury.
Thanks, Art. So, yeah, just a general comment, and then I'll talk about this project. But I do think sort of the biggest thing I think about listening to all this is it really matters, right? Like every person involved in a community needs to think that what they do matters, and that's really in my way of thinking about community planning. That's where the engagement comes in, because no matter what, Judy named specific things that planners work on, housing. And I think the effort of the Greater Newburyport Housing Choice Coalition over the last year was really a way that a partnership was able to elevate and get people engaged in a way to think about the housing crisis and how to solve it and how to think about solutions. And that's the same with climate resiliency. It's the same with transportation issues. So one project that's moving forward that some of you may be aware of, but Plum Island Turnpike, which is obviously one of our most important gateway roads to this region. There's actually, you probably all know, but there are 4 towns on Plum Island, right? The very tip is Ipswich, Raleigh, Newbury, Newburyport. In addition, we have partners, the National Wildlife Refuge, Mass Audubon, Greenbelt, there are lots of entities. And then it's just a residential community, but it also attracts, an economic, arm of the region. So for all these reasons, I think we know that access to Plum Island is a pretty critical thing to think about as we look to the future. When I started doing climate resiliency work, we were using 2030, 2070, and 2100. And it's kind of crazy to me, and frankly makes me feel like I've been doing work for a while, that we're almost at 2030. when we started really working on Great Marsh Coastal Adaptation Plan and the municipal vulnerability plans, it was still a generation away. We started in like 2015, 2016. We had 15 years to get to that 2030. That's a whole, that's your kid being born and becoming a teenager. That seemed like a long time, but here we are. This project is a real partnership to look both at it's really a feasibility question. What are the improvements we can make to the turnpike that address not just access, but also transportation changes? How do we deal with the parking crisis? How do we get different kinds of transportation so we're not all in our cars? All of these questions are really integrated into the goal of looking at the future and thinking about how to improve it for all of our sakes. So, I don't know. We had a great turnout to this meeting. There were about 70 people. I think there are people who live on the island who think the tide comes in, the tide comes out. Oh well, I don't drive the road when it's flooded. And there are concerns about the resources, that abut the road. There are concerns about maintenance. Look at all the sticky notes on there. We had incredible interactive conversations going on. And I do, again, as a planner, I think that engagement and developing relationships and trust in each other, that we're working towards some goals that we feel good about, that's where it matters. So it's really important, as sustainability to me really is a human environmental relationship and a mindset.
Thank you, Kristen. So that's a reality perspective, and it's happening. But we're going to have to be bold going forward. We really are going to have to be bold. And one of the things that stands out in society is waste. So part of what has to happen there is dealing with waste. And that's the initial pilot program that we're undertaking. Why? It impacts every single person. It impacts every single business, every single community of interest. And we've made a lot of progress through what Molly and her team have done. But 2050 is a whole different ballgame. We have to really forget about trying to be victorious about what we've done and look at how we're going to be serious about the future. 90% reduction in waste. So, Molly, I'm going to give this to you so you can come up here. You can do whatever you want. Thank you for everything you have done.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I was a little late, sorry. But is there anyone from Salisbury or Amesbury here? Amesbury. Excellent. Oh, yeah, we've met. Okay, so what Judy said, what Kristen said, it all matters. It really does matter. And a lot of people that I talk to say, why does it matter what we do? Because what I do here in Newburyport, doesn't really affect Essex County, doesn't really affect the state, doesn't really affect the country, and then the world. So some people really have that mindset that it doesn't really matter, but it does matter. It matters to everyone. It matters to, your direct environment as well as the overall environment. And the progress that Massachusetts in particular has made has been huge, and we can see with trending that it is making a difference. And the numbers of waste, the energy numbers, the resiliency, all of the numbers that we track on a daily basis are trending in the right direction. What Judy was talking about with carbon dioxide, so we did a study a number of years ago on carbon and where's it all coming from. It's like putting a big bubble over the city and saying, okay, where is all this carbon coming from in this city? And we were really shocked that a third of it was from transportation. We couldn't believe it. We're like, that's surprising. But we counted boats and buses and trains and cars and commuters, everything. That too. Yes. But anyway, so it's a third. 2/3 are buildings. She was saying construction, but buildings, so that's electrifying and then heating buildings. So that's a huge challenge for us, and we have our eye on that ball as well, and that's the energy industry and what we need to do to reduce. And we have 2030 goals and we have 2050 goals for both energy and for waste, and they're both similar. It's like 30% reduction by 2030 and 85 and 90% for energy and waste. So we're working on both of those things at the same time, so it's a lot of work plus resiliency. So there's a lot going on, and it's really great that everybody's here to learn about this, and it's really important that we all work together. So thank you, Art and crew, for pulling us all together. But waste is why we're gonna transition now, because waste is something that's kind of easy for everyone to understand, right? And it's something that, as Art said, it affects everybody. Everybody has to deal with it on a daily basis. And it's also sort of the gateway drug, I'll call, to making change. You know, you say, oh, I recycle, so I'm a green person, I recycle. And then you say, well, you can compost. Oh yeah, so I do that, so you feel a little greener. And there's little things that you can do, and then you start reusing, you know, reusing things, and it just grows from there. And I don't know if everyone here composts, but if you start composting, it's kind of addictive. And when you go somewhere else and you don't have it, you're like, what do I do with this food waste? But anyway, so Newburyport's been working on all of these things for a long time. And even before I started, the city passed a recycling ordinance. And that was working with the state as well. Massachusetts, again, we're really lucky to be here. The state has some strong goals and some really good assistance that they provide to us through the DEP. One of the biggest things that we've done was passing the plastic bag, thin film bag ordinance. And I think students and Jeanette and, you know, many people here helped with that. We could make it bigger if we want and add styrofoam and straws and all different things to it. But that really started with students, and it took 2 years to get that passed. It took a long time working with the council. It was a fight, yeah. There was a lot of opposition. We had restaurants fighting us. We had, you know, the surf riders came in and helped us, and the Conservation Law Foundation. So it's a, you know, making a change like that, you know, we were fighting big corporations that thought this was going to be something that the rest of the world was going to start doing, because we were the first city in the state to pass that. Brookline had passed it, but they're a town. Believe it or not. I was surprised to hear that. But anyway, so that was a big deal for us, and it took a long time. And then I think the next big thing was we tried a zero waste pilot, and I really have to credit Kristen Walth, who was a resident here who really lived the zero waste lifestyle. I think she had one little box after 2 years of the trash that she had left over. But she, we applied for a grant, and we had a 2-year grant, and we worked with households, and we did composting. We had 50 households to start with, and today we have over 1,000 households. Plus we have 5 large drop-off areas, including here and the front. And now today we have the senior center also doing a zero waste program, which is huge. And guess what? I just talked to the police. They want to start doing this. I know. Isn't that exciting? They're going to just start small. They're going to start small with composting. But I think it's, you know, it'll be a good message for all. I don't know how it will go. They're not making any big commitments. They're just going to try it out. So, but that's a big step. So anyway, so those things are really important. And then we, again, have the state and all its mandates. So we had to follow all of the recycling mandates. They banned textiles. They banned mattresses. So all those things help us do our job. And then we have DEP, who provides tremendous assistance to us. So that's it for me. Art, I don't know who's next. Oh, there's more, but there's a lot we've done. We could talk about it all day, but that's it for now.
And I think what we're doing here is the nucleus of something that's called very serious. Very serious. Can't be taken lightly anymore. And 2050 is right in our sights. I won't be around, but I look forward to everybody continuing what we start here. And in terms of what started here, fortunately with Sarah and Ben and the Council of Aging and the seniors that are in here, we've made some good progress to make this a model of what should happen in any community.
Well, one of the, back in October, when we first had a discussion with Sarah about thinking of using this facility as a model and trying to capture some of the practices that the seniors have typically grown up with, basically collecting newspapers, collecting metal, recycling clothing and things like that. We thought that that was a golden opportunity. And when we first presented it to Sarah, she was enthusiastic, and she's become our champion. And she's fully participated and fully supporting this program, which we're very pleased to do. And a lot of the successes that we've achieved so far have been because of that support and the staff here and the people, as well as our waste ambassadors. Jeanette and Nikki are 2 of 4 waste ambassadors. And waste ambassadors just walk around, correct things, observe things, and those type of things. But we identified 2 particular programs beyond. Phase 1 would be focus on the personnel that use the facility during the day. Those are the seniors, pretty much. And this is a very active facility. Most of seniors are in and out of here 2 or 3 times a week. And it's a very active after-hours facility. So we have a lot of weekend functions, a lot of evening meetings and things like that. So it's a golden opportunity to capture the entire users of this facility. And we hope to develop practices that are common to all of the areas. So this facility can, on a 24/7 basis, become a totally zero waste facility, which is our goal. Good. 2 campaigns that we identified. In a way, they're low-hanging fruit. Food waste. There's a lot generated here. We have meals here during the day. We have a Meals on Wheels program, and we have congregate meals, and we have a good facility that's very active with the Bresnahan parents. And Bresnahan is very active teaching their children how to segregate waste. So we developed this grab a bag, drop a bag, get a bag, and this is what the bag looks like. It's a Ziploc bag. We encourage every citizen to bring one home, fill it with waste, bring it here, and most everybody has a lot of food waste, let's face it. And one of the benefits of this program that's tied in with Black Earth is that there's a lot more things that you can put in this bag that Black Earth will use than even composting in your own backyards. So it could be a very lucrative type of thing. So that's the program that we started in October. And go ahead. And this is the model that we developed. And the key thing is that, talk about collaboration, there's all parties to this facility is really helping out. The people who use it, the people who support this facility. We have the janitors who are actually recording how much waste we generate throughout the week. Every Monday morning, Cliff goes around and with a little check sheet designates how full each barrel is. And we translate that into gallons and into pounds. So we have a good measure of where we are at. Okay. And this is what our accomplishments have been so far. We started with an average of 45 gallons a week back in October, and gradually in May, it reached 148 gallons per week. Tremendous progress. And this is like a cumulative attainment. And the key numbers there is the cumulative numbers, 2,902 gallons that we've achieved so far, and 8,786 pounds of food waste. So that's tremendous at this point, at least beyond our expectation. But a lot of growth still potential. And a lot of it is really constantly advocating, constantly generating the excitement to collect the food, and really teaching people that it's not all that hard, but also saying it's a good thing to do. Go back one more slide. Another one. The second one more. The second campaign, which we're into now, is reduce the use of plastic. And basically, our program here is to make this no single-use container, plastic container facility. And by that, we mean that we are hopeful to, and we've already changed some of our specifications for use of this facility, calling this a zero waste facility. And we're at the point where we're really need to anticipate what the ramification of making that judgment is and anticipating how we act and how we manage that thing. But hopefully, by August 1st, we should hopefully be ready to designate this facility as the first no single-use plastic facility in the community. Going back to the model, our expectation is that model could be translated to other facilities in the communities. The City Hall, Department of Public Works, hospitals, church organizations, other Council on Aging in other communities. Those are not great opportunities. And that's it.
Okay, Ben. Thank you. I just want to point out a couple of things. One is that Sarah and Ben and the team have done some great work because HBAN, who deals with Meals on Wheels, 4,000 per day, is changing from plastic delivery system to compostable. It started right here. And I think that's indicative of what we're talking about. We're going to be bold and big and make this really happen because it's critical. And fortunately, we've got a new team member who commutes from Acton, who's done great things for us, Michael Watkins.
Thank you. So I'm sure AI has been in the news a lot, especially this year. And until this year, I never used it. And because of this project and other projects, I have become a pretty good user of AI. And I'm going to demonstrate some of that to help us with our discovery process. We're going to take questions later, but for a first cut, we're going to use AI to ask for answers. Now, AI, it can lie. It can say bad things. It can. So it's in a positive way. Yeah, it's very cheerful about it. It's very enthusiastic. Okay. So, you know, I've looked at it. It's done some fantastic things for me. It's taken something that would take hours and literally, I jumped up and down. I did something that should take hours in 5 minutes. So that's good. Then for this project, I tried to have it generate some infographics. It failed. It omitted a lot of information. It looked pretty. It looked really, really good, but it didn't capture everything it should have. So you have to use your human judgment with whatever AI spits back at you. And for the most part, you can tell this is not right. So we're gonna take questions from everyone. We're gonna take a break and go away and come back in 3 weeks or so with answers that we get from AI, but we're gonna also vet those and we're gonna verify, is it true what it said? So, sure. So we can leverage AI for some quick answers, and like I said, it needs to be verified. I'm gonna do a live demonstration, but here, you know, we tried some things before. So we asked this prompt, create a comparison of waste handling in the following communities. You can see them all. I'll let you read them. I won't say them all. And it generated a list of information, and then we actually asked it, hey, put that in a nice table so we can compare all of the towns and cities. And this is the information it came up with. So we did a little bit more processing to kind of color code it. All the greens are yeses. So I mean, this is a good example of where to start. You know, we asked this question. It did the research very quickly. I do know it's only as good as the information that is on the web already. So we knew for sure one of these was wrong because the website hadn't been updated yet with the right information. So that's again where the verification will come in. But it would have taken hours to do this research, to go to every town's website and gather that information, so AI can do that for us. We just then need to fact check it afterwards. So here's another prompt. What are some examples of the best sustainability initiatives in the country with towns and cities the size of Newburyport? So expand it. We wanted best practices, and AI came up with these answers. Again, I'm not going to read them all, but they were all very good answers.
One of the interesting things is you look at those and you remember that outcomes from the conversations, parallel, very consistent. Very consistent with what Sean said we need to do.
Yep.
So it helps us from reinventing the wheel, that we can actually see what's already been done and get a quick answer, and then we can figure out what works for us.
Okay, I'm going to try to switch to a web browser. I have to turn some things off and turn some things on to get it to work. So bear with me.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to say, so that table that Michael showed with all those communities, what are we going to do with that? Well, just think, if we create a team in each community, then somebody like Kaylee can take that list for what's going on in West Newbury, go to the town offices, and validate what that list says with more specifics. So it doesn't have to be totally accurate. It's got to foster it being totally accurate by interacting. I want to say one other thing about what Kaylee did at Earth Day celebration at the Bullnose. She wrote a paper that was about 1,100 words long about her passion for the environment. We heard it. People that were there heard it. We talked to her about writing a column. So it's come down to 600 and something words, but the whole thing is there. So if you go to the ACES' website, you can find a column written by Kaylee. And then we've got other people who are going to write them soon, too.
Thank you, Art. Okay, so I am using ChatGPT, which is probably the most famous AI out there right now. Oh, yeah, thank you. So I put this prompt in: create a comparison of waste handling in the following communities. I'll call them mostly the Burries around here. Share the top initiatives and key ways these programs were organized. Again, this would take hours to organize, to research on your own. So it should be quick, but I didn't time this. And hopefully it'll cooperate. There we go. So that wasn't even a minute. So has Newburyport's initiatives, read some of them. So overflow trash program, comprehensive recycling and composting, public education. It covers Amesbury, Groveland, Merrimack. So great information. Kind of has it did a pretty good job here of making this table. But then, no, it didn't. But we could ask it to.
You can say, yeah, show me the comparison based on the percentage.
You can make that a question, and you'll get the answer to it.
So you keep iterating your question and keep asking. But it's only as good as the data. It's as good. What you get out of it is depending on how good your prompts are, and also how good the data is available. So garbage in, garbage out.
Yes, literally. Okay, so this is the second prompt building on that information. So it's basically show a table that shows a comparison across these same towns. All right, And actually, it even proactively said, would you like a downloadable version of this in Excel or formatted for a PowerPoint slide? So I think that's actually changed since we even started doing this. I think it's evolved. That's a new addition. And that's perfect, because I want it in Excel or a PowerPoint. So, I'm not going to click on that, but it'll do it. So that just, I just did hours worth of work in minutes. I think the answers are pretty good and mostly accurate for this, but they're not perfect, so they each need to be vetted. Okay, I'll go back to the slide. Slide deck.
Sure, but I'm just going to say something, because what we're talking about here, we're not at the head of the pack. We're going to play catch up. There's a lot of communities that are already into a 2050 action plan right here in this state. And being real, it's catch up. We don't like to be that. I want to say Laurel Henke came a little late, and she's been the queen of recycling in the community, working with Molly. So thank you for being here, Laurel.
For you, the questions.
Oh, okay. So now we're into you speaking. Does anybody want to stand up for a minute? We've been at about an hour. Not bad, but you can, if you want to ask a question, and stand up, because we're going to capture your questions. This is about your questions that need to be considered. Any question is legitimate. The only bad question is the one you don't ask. How can we come up with an idea to advance what Molly's put in place without understanding what all the facts are? It's very difficult. So that's why we're having everybody ask questions.
So I want to go back to my thought that
If you can make it a question, it'd be great, because that's how we have to process it.
1 second, Arthur. So my question is, how can we begin a process of eliminating those gas-powered leaf blowers? You already did it? Boy, you're good. You're fast.
That is a conversation we're having citywide. We're trying to do it within the city first, much like a lot of these other things. I mean, I think what's great about Newburyport is that we are a good size to have some of these pilots, like zero waste here, like our fire station being the first net zero building. There are things like that, and the school. I know the schools have done things as well, but I mean, and my hope is that we do these pilots in these small test cases, and then again roll it out to the city. So what's happening here at the senior center? It's great to see the police department wants to be more involved. Starting someplace and then having it spread, and then you get to that point where you can now educate the public enough where you can move forward with some sort of leaf blower ordinance or things like that, because that is something that is already active in other communities. Since I took office, I'm very aware of the fact of what downtown looks like on a daily basis, and what's the trash situation downtown, particularly now that we're getting into our busy season downtown. And how DPS cleans downtown is that they go early in the morning and they use leaf blowers usually. I walk around during the day and I pick it up with my bare hands, but they use leaf blowers. And just recently they've switched over to electric leaf blowers to do it to help minimize the noise there. So it's a start.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Okay. Who?
We wanted to start to move this towards the first initiative,
The first question, yeah. Which is, can you blow that up so that everybody can see it? There's 3 questions we've had, and what's happening now is you're going to add to these questions. So the first one is, what questions do you have about reducing waste to 90% by 2050? What do you want to know? What facts would you like to have an understanding of?
I want to know how we can make the normal consumer stop buying so much, what is the good word here? Crap?
So what was the question?
How can we make the average consumer stop buying so much stuff, especially plastic stuff, but stuff in general? Right? I mean,
Okay.
it's one thing to reduce
Tariffs are on their way to taking care of that.
So what implications are the tariffs going to have long-term and short-term?
Empty shelves.
So you see, how can we do anything if we don't have any questions to answer? It's your questions. You're representative of the population. We just organized this to stimulate questions.
Hi. I'm curious about school buses and public transportation buses. Are they electric yet? Or are they diesel? Yeah.
Here's an example. We're going to have to be very disciplined. So right now we're asking questions. Okay. And I appreciate your interest, but we've got to put it in a question form.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't have anything to do with waste right now.
Right.
Well, and I have a question kind of related to that, just school buses. And how can we move forward? How can we move forward and expand what is now a small experimental program of biking to school? Newburyport Livable Streets has a bike bus in cooperation with the police department, who have been phenomenal working with us. We go to the Bresnahan by bike every week, every Friday. We pick up kids along the way. We need to expand that to the other schools and expand it to more than just Fridays. How can we do that? How can we expand that program? And that gets us to less waste.
Very good. Okay. I mean, it's not easy to be disciplined to just ask questions when you want to stir something up and you got an idea or a thought, but that's discover. It has to go this way. The routine of process has to rise above many, many temptations.
I also work at Anna Jake's, and I wonder how 90% is feasible in a place where you have to use single-use items a lot, and how we can start thinking about that a little differently.
Good comment.
I may be, how can I say, far away from what has been discussed now, but I think that one of the biggest waste is energy. We're using a lot of energy and wasting a lot of energy. What we just did with AI is use a lot of energy. There are the big clouds that are consuming a lot. So is there a way, from one way, to educate people to use less energy and maybe, I don't know, turn off the computers at night? And is there a way for a group of towns to produce the energy in a better way than what is produced now?
Thank you. Michael.
All right, so I really like the program that's going on here to do the composting. So my first question is just how can the composting expand to the whole town? Not just the population right now, but how can we get everybody to compost? Then related to that is just recycling. I mean, I know there are so many, you see the little recycle symbol, and not everything with the symbol is recyclable. So first, I guess, how can we educate the public on what is recyclable? And then how can we address the items that have the symbol but aren't really recyclable? How can we close that gap and at least get rid of those two waste streams? So anything that can be composted should be composted. So how can we get everybody to do that? And then we should look at things that can be recycled and what in reality can be recycled, and how do we get full participation in that? And what do we do about the items that have the symbol but can't be recycled?
Thank you.
Yeah,
her
yeah.
afterwards.
I noticed, I believe you were the one that was the plastics engineer. Why do we still have plastic? Everything's plastic, and it's so hard. It's ubiquitous. I mean, walking along Plum Island, low tide, tons of plastics. You know, like the beer loops and bottles. And why do we have plastic bottles still? Can we make like restaurants to use cardboard boxes for people's leftovers? I mean, I can't believe I still go to places that are still giving styrofoam. Why is styrofoam still around?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is styrofoam
Yeah.
still being allowed in
It's
the community? That's a good question.
yeah.
It's all about price. It's all about price. It has nothing to do with anything else, and it's, there are other materials, but nobody wants to deal with the fact that glass is heavy, and it's more expensive, and nobody wants to deal with metals, because metals are hard to get, and they're hard to process, cost a heck of a lot more. I mean, it's, if we could, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah.
They can't hear because the microphone's here. But
Yeah.
I will also say, you see, that's getting into a conversation that's exactly right. But we've got to understand why we are diminishing the use of plastic.
Right. Well,
What's the answer to that question?
somebody had a good.
We're not going to make it now. We're not going to
Right.
raise the answer to that question. That's part of it, but there's much more to it. So being respectful for each question, we want to have the facts in the answer. The fossil fuel industry certainly doesn't want plastic not being used.
Right. Well, somebody had a good suggestion. If we promote in the schools, in the community, bring your own, container to a restaurant. Bring your own. Yeah, a lot of people are doing bags at the supermarket. In 1971, when I went to Europe, people were using they bring their own bags to the grocery store way back then. All the buses in Paris are electric. Small cars. Oh, okay. Well, reducing waste. I think that question. How do we do that? How do we break up different sections of waste? I also think composting bins. Some towns offered them very cheaply. You could buy it through the town, a composting bin. Yeah, I thought that was excellent. So, and then again, bring this to the attention of the schools.
A pain in the neck.
I think your question is, how do we encourage more people to bring their own
containers? Yeah, if you introduce it in community talks, PTAs, filter it down.
All right. My question is how do we involve all different members of our community? And by that I mean, in this conversation, folks who are disabled or lack the ability to come to some of these meetings. I'd like to dig into that. How can we reach out to that community and make it more feasible for those folks to be able to compost, to recycle, and to do those things? So how do we do that?
I guess my question would be, how do we bring the restaurant owners into this circle? I mean, they're the ones who make a huge impact. Your point about containers, if what we're doing right now with the Meals on Wheels works, we have something to recommend, but we can't do anything unless we have some answers and a process, which is what we're working on now. And how do we bring the restaurateurs into this circle? I mean, the small ones are doing very well, the cafes and stuff. Most of them are composting, recycling, etc., or they will fill your cup if you bring it. They will give you ceramic if you ask for it. but restaurants will not fill your bucket if you ask them to, because they're not going to bring your bucket into their kitchen, period. You can. That you can do.
So I've got an easier question. How do we get households to compost? It is so easy. It really is. Restaurants, a little more difficult, volume, things like this. This single facility here since October has collected over 4 tons of food waste. 4 tons from one building. And if we could get everybody at home to do it, I do it at home. I throw it in a bag, put it in my freezer, and then I've got a 5 by 5 by 5 foot compost box out of the, see, I've got land to put it on. But it's so easy. It really is so easy. And that's a methane producer. So.
That's a lot of waste, though. It'd be nice to not have that much waste.
Down to a bag a week if we don't buy anything from Amazon.
Yeah, and don't buy more food than you're going to eat.
This is not an easy question, but why don't the manufacturers of plastic pay for the disposal instead of consumers? We have to pay 5 cents per bottle. I don't know where that goes, and there's a bottle bill that expands that, more plastics. But the manufacturer should be paying for disposing their products.
One of the problems I've noticed mainly is like food waste, or not food waste, like in supermarkets, like most of the food comes in plastic packaging. Even like in Market Basket, organic vegetables are wrapped in like saran wrap. And also like things like laundry detergent, like napkins, paper towels, all of that stuff is in plastic packaging. And Greenhouse Downtown has actually done a lot for like the laundry detergent, like soap. You can get all that and like fill your own containers. But my question is how can we do that for like your typical like supermarket food scenarios, just so we can reduce more waste like going into households?
Very good, Caleb. Pat, did you want? No? Yeah. Well, you have ideas that are framed as answers, and that's why this is difficult. You see, sticking to this process of what do we have to know? How about how many hurricanes should we assume are going to happen in this greater Newburyport area in the next 25 years? Major ones. 5. We're going to get but believe it or not, we've got to make an assumption on that. The Resiliency Committee is doing great work, but are they dealing with all of the projections? I know Kristen is working for that to happen, right?
To address the science, like real things are happening?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, the Newburyport Resiliency Committee takes its work very seriously. I'm Newbury's representative to that committee, but yeah, from every issue, lots of planning, working with the other entities, city council. There's a lot of prioritizing going on. We know, it shouldn't take a crisis like losing our water supply or losing our access to Plum Island or whatever these, really large-scale crises are that we see around the globe and around the country. Hopefully that won't ever happen here, but in order to be ready, we need to really work hard and prioritize. How do we do that? That's my question.
Well, yes, that's the best focus. Thank you.
All right, so just on the disaster, what are we going to do with all the disaster debris? If we have disasters, where's it all going to go? And then could we ever think about Newburyport being zero plastic? Or no single-use plastic?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, it's just a big question, that's all. No, I was not saying reducing it, I was saying get rid of. Yeah, no, I don't think it could happen, but reduce single-use plastic, potentially. But anyway, that's a big one.
Nobody bought a rotisserie chicken from Market Basket for a week.
That's right, yeah.
Would they change their packaging?
Going on top of that and like the plastic and reducing that, I feel like schools are a big problem. I know the middle school already has, like especially in the cafeterias, they have metal utensils, I'm pretty sure. But then the high school, it's still like plastic utensils. And then we also have, and we have styrofoam like trays for school lunches. So I feel like reducing that, if we find ways to reduce that, that'd help.
This is now? This is something that's going on now?
Yeah, I remember like we had metal.
It's just shocking.
Yeah, we used to not have them, and then COVID brought them back. Yeah. And now we have to get rid of them again.
So this topic's to be bold about because there are plenty of people in this community that are absolutely ripped that there are single-use plastic bottles in the schools. Yeah. Absolutely ripped. So we hope this model of setting this to be a no single-use plastic bottle this summer will allow the schools to not have single-use plastic bottles, and it just be a matter of following the best practice set up here.
All right, you guys made me think of this. So to address, I guess this facility probably had to do this, but how do we analyze the entire waste stream? Well, we'll say for the town, right? How do we analyze it? That needs to be done. Trash audit? Okay, trash audit, great. And then for each item, like what's its life cycle going to be, or what is the end? How can we reduce each category to get to reduce it to the 90%? Some I know will be possible, very possible. I don't want to use the word easy, but you guys are demonstrating some of the low-hanging fruit. I know a lot of businesses take e-waste, for your electronics that you buy. So we need to have this analysis, the trash audit, and then for every item that shows up, what can we do with it? How can we recycle it, reuse it, get rid of it without making it trash? I think that's a big thing. I like what was suggested earlier, just reducing. We're a consumer society. We buy so much stuff, and it's packaged. To your point, like I hate the cucumbers that are wrapped in plastic, right? And I've seen organically, and I've seen individually wrapped potatoes, so you can put them in the microwave. That just really gets me. But yeah, I think the audit paired with what do we do with it? E-waste can go to places like Best Buy to get recycled. But anyway, I think that's a good thing to do. Yeah.
Thank you.
So our overall estimation is like 90% reduction, but what is success? How do we define success? Like, what is successful?
We're going to have a towards zero waste program, and what are the goals going to be that will allow us to say we've succeeded?
Yeah. What are some ways that we can measure success?
And I think a monitoring system of how do we have 5-year goals that are measured, spoken to, presented to the community. Is that fair to amplify that? Because a public education, how do we educate the public on the results of the work? Just like what Ben provided about what's happening with this model.
I think it would be exciting for people to see that what they're doing is mattering. So how do we, showing a metric or something, how are we going to measure it and communicate that? We are almost gamifying the experience. How do we bring that to surface?
To be discussed. Very good point. As a side comment, we have an education learning team within ACES, which we're going to expand, so it's the largest team that exists, because when you think about what's happening, there's a lot of education associated with it. So that's a resource.
Should be invited to these meetings, because a lot of this, you know, is, like you noted, educational, and we're doing all this for the next generations and to keep the planet for that, you know, for the grandchildren and so forth. Right. So I think that we have to involve more departments. I mean, I think it's terrific that the mayor came, you know.
He's the municipal leader of what has to happen. And without him and without Kristen and without Brittany, he's going to bring Cassandra the next time. Sure. Right? And we're going to have whoever's from Salisbury come, because we got to go to, we're 8:30, we want to leave here in 15 minutes. But this, we fortunately have reserved the large room downstairs for 3 weeks from now, where not only the people that didn't show up tonight, but you need to bring one person personally with you.
Speaking of the room downstairs, that's where I was between 7 and 8. But I'm not sorry I went. I mean, I'm sorry I wasn't here, but anyway, my idea is actually something, my question is something that Molly and I were talking about recently, which is, will all the new public buildings in Newburyport have dishwashers in them, so that the silverware can be metal, so it can be reused? So, for instance, is the Recreation and Youth Center, does that have a dishwasher built into the kitchen?
Thank you. Very practical question. Any other questions? So what is the next little exercises we've got? What were the other questions we want? So what questions you have that say, how are we going to be organized? How are we going to go from a conversation here tonight to have something that's going to build and grow and be serious, because 2050 is coming at us?
Who's going to do it? That's the question.
Everybody has to participate.
You're not supposed to answer. Who's
Who's going to be the organizer? Any other questions? Pat?
I vote for Molly. No, you're supposed to say, I vote for Molly?
Any other question?
So how do we create buy-in to everybody? I mean, if they don't have a real reason for being here, you know, they're not going to get any buy-in. You're not going to get them to commit.
Has to be answered. Anything else about being organized? Your observation, you can make it a question. Because we do have to have, how are we going to embrace the other municipal leaders and have them come to the next conversation? That's a question. Molly, what other questions do you have? We want to set up your ideas for the part of the question directing, because that process that was outlined has been proven and used, and we can't not use proven processes by jumping to ideas. There's plenty of ideas randomly bouncing around all communities about what you can do, about what you can do. We have to follow a process. Does anybody disagree with that? Do you have a question about that? Why? That's why we're asking you for your questions of what we need to know and find out.
A lot of times I'm just asking, what's the best way to communicate with people? When I have information, how can I get that out there?
Did you pick that up? Can you say that again?
A question that I have is, what is the best way of getting information out to individuals?
Community. I'm sure that exists in every community. Anybody else? We want to go to the next question, so we're going to be on time. The next question is, what questions do you have about developing the private-public collaborative entity that doesn't exist? It's not the city, it's not ACES, it's not the senior center. It's got to be something that is formed. And maybe we want to go to a prompt with the next slide, which, pardon? There are, yes, that's the idea, to have collaborative communities, regionally based. There are already existing models around.
So in regards to setting up collaborations, public-private, I would ask, how do you connect with, say, either business owners or other organizations to provide or get them information? So how do you get that list of the people you want to connect with first? So how do you go about finding those businesses or those organizations that might be partners with you? Would be one question. And then how do you task somebody to make those connections? So those would.
How do we develop the organization? Absolutely. Okay, Nikki, I'm not going to throw it.
Don't toss. So is there, I guess, feeding from Sarah's is, I mean, there maybe one step higher. Is there a professional or consulting organization out there that could help us coordinate all of that? I mean, you know, not like 1,000 of them, but just like a small consultant type person who could give us the direction to get those things done that you're saying, and give people the motivation to go through with it. The hard part is, you know, where people say, oh, I did that, oh, I forgot, or, you know, they weren't there, nobody answered my call.
Who are the experts that can lead this process? Is that fair?
Is there a professional already out there? Yes.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's plenty of examples of exactly what we're talking about. We're catching up here. We're catching up. We're not in the lead. And here are the communities that are impacted when you think about contiguous borders plus school districts. And Whittier is an important school district for what's happening. They're proactive. So these are the potential communities, and we've got to figure out how they're going to be at the table. Everybody involved. Fortunately, there's a good little team from West Newbury that's here. And Brittany's and Jackie are representing Amesbury. But them coming together is TBD. And the next group is all the other communities of interest. You know, we've got many, many environmental organizations that are already doing something, but how do they contribute to this? We have to find out how they can. Houses of worship. There's an interest in houses of worship to do the right thing. And there's the green team of the Unitarian Church is exemplary in what they're doing. So how do we capture that and share it? I mean, to that group. So that's part of the educational communication issue that's been talked about here, recognizing their importance. Is that fair? What else do we want to conclude with? I'm worn out. I mean, frankly, we're going to have a meeting next week with some people to help advance this, but the 25th downstairs, we want you to bring another person. It's Thursday night, to bring another person that you believe would resonate with this. Because networking is a key way to build a team like this around what we're all connected with the environment. So we need to have other people that feel passionate about the environment, because that's what the grassroots approach is going to do, because we can't think about up here. So that's my plea, is this is a grassroots networking opportunity to stand tall. There's other examples of communities that have done a regional thing that we'll be able to look at, but we've got to have a team to look at it.
I think one other thing to maybe leave, I think we all should come away committed to this activity in whatever way we can, because we're advocates. If we're here for a purpose, everybody came here because of different levels of interest, but hopefully you take back at least some information, but also the commitment to take some level of action. And that's in our ECHO conversations that we're having here on a monthly basis since October. That's the message that we're getting to the participants. What actions are you going to take? It could be small, it could be large, it could be involving or getting involved in these type of things. But we all have to do something. We just cannot let this lie or let this effort die, basically.
I just want to point out this little piece of artwork done by a young lady from Byfield. It's an attempt to visualize what needs to happen to go towards sustainable communities. And in the next version, which is from here forward to 2050, it's going to be created by somebody else. Because we've got to deal with, you don't see any solar power here. You do see composting, reducing waste, educational columns, etc. But a picture can be worth 1,000 words, so we look forward to young people expressing and creating the next wave. And in that vein, I just like to have us remember something. What Molly talked about with the plastic bags, the single-use plastic bag ban in Newburyport being the first community in the state, there were about, I don't know, around 15 adults dealing with this. Some of those adults had young people. They came to some of the conversations, and they said, what if we say something? They said something to the city council, and within 6 weeks, the city council accepted it and passed it. Now, you say, that's Newburyport. Wow. In Lexington, 3 fourth graders stood up in a town meeting and said, we need to get rid of these plastic bags that are hanging all over the trees. In that town meeting, you're not supposed to get resounding applause, and passed it right then. Same thing in Beverly. Gloucester, young people made the case. So they need to have their voice loud and strong, and we need to be supporting them. We're going to walk the talk now for a minute, because in keeping with an event that we supported the school on, this is a reusable bottle with an ACES logo and no plastic. And you're all going to have one of these. Pardon? The top's made of bamboo. There is a little piece of plastic in the inside to seal it, but nonetheless, this is a reusable bottle. So I am glad we can give each one of you one, and we're going to have more in the future, because we've been given another grant. And that will help the argument in the schools. We don't need any plastic bottles.
Please display it, because it sends the message.
Okay? Okay, so when you leave, you're going to get one of these. Thank you very much. And I think what Ben just said, this reiterates what he said about together making a big difference. And big is capitalized.